Hello, everyone! Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Today is Wednesday, 9th of June. Jesus, wasn't it just the end of May, just a day or two ago? Anyway, powering our way through this month of June. We had our TRISOF meeting last night, which was a lot of fun. Talked to a lot of different names. Tons and tons of stocks bottoming. One of our site members did a really great presentation on SPACs, so we're going to share it on Friday on the Daily Brief. So we're just kicking it around amongst TRISOF people last night, just getting what their impressions were. Kevin seems to think that it's a pretty good presentation. So what do you think, Kevin? These looky-loos, is it worth them doing the 30-day trial just to come in and see that presentation on Friday on SPACs?
Yeah, totally. That's good.
There you go. You've been told. So anyway, Wednesdays, of course, I have Kevin come on and talk on the Daily Brief, and he was saying he had a lot of fun in today's Daily Brief, and he just had so much to talk about that he just couldn't figure out when to stop talking. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so we had lots of fun. It's great, great broadcaster today. And, it seems that every single day at TRI, it's kind of like, when what you do is your passion, really, we don't really work. I mean, I'd be doing exactly the same thing if I was sitting in some brokerage house bullpen, if I was sitting in some prop firm trading their money, if I was sitting on my own money, sitting on TradingView, chatting in their room, I'd be doing exactly the same thing. So we're actually extremely fortunate that our quote-unquote work is this. So anyway, it's another day in the market, and of course, I don't know whether you follow the Twitter feed or not, but if you do, you see that, holy bejesus, Brian banged off a couple pretty big wins today. So never a dull moment around this base, that's for sure. Holy moly. So nice, simple, easy trade. Bought the W down in here, reload zones, all that fun stuff, and bang. The irony of this one is I don't think I really want to actually sell this stock because this is a nice trust unit. These are the kind of units that'll pay for your retirement if you can just buy them at good levels and forget about them. But what the hell? Double is a double is a double. I'm always a big fan of trying to get your original invested capital back into your hands as fast as possible. Then, regardless of what the politicians do, regardless of what Klaus does, free is free is free. I mean, there's not really much more to debate about that. It's my asset. It's free. It's an income-producing asset, and there's no fucking way in hell Klaus is getting his hands on it. It's as simple as that. It's mine. Fuck off. And maybe this might actually turn into a shooting war. By the end of all of this, it wouldn't surprise me. I've told you guys repeatedly, anybody who watches this channel regularly, every 80 years we have to go through these resets. World War II. Did a few people die through that? U.S. Civil War. Did a few people have to die through that? U.S. Revolutionary War. Did a few people have to die through that? And if you look up in the sky, I think there's something like 6 different celestial events all happen in this funny little cluster of years around 2020. And the astrologers go, you don't see this once in a million years. So, welcome to our present. Anyway, the point here is as long as I can keep doing these kind of trades, then I should be able to outpace, my terrible, democratically elected politicians that are nothing more than puppets of the banks. I should be able to outpace them. Fingers crossed, wish me luck. And hopefully, if you do decide to ride my coattails, I've told you this time and time again. I don't care whether you buy or sell anything that I do, but if there's some way that you can benefit from the information that I'm imparting here, awesome. I don't have any vested interest whether you buy or sell anything that I talk about, other than my vested interest is I'd love to see this world a little bit nicer. Jeez, make a positive difference in this world. So, just running my business, generating free assets, and then every once in a while, you get just absolute insane gifts running this strategy. So here's one where I bought the stock at about $1.50, and I actually already established the risk-free trade, and I just got handed a ridiculous gift here today. But, okay, fine. Twist my rubber arm. And it's just what I do. This is the business that I run. Some guy actually came on the YouTube page there yesterday. Actually, I'm talking to you on YouTube, so you guys actually should understand what I'm talking about here. And he kind of gave me grief, like you can even see it here. You called the bottom on this dump twice. I don't call bottoms. John, no offense. If you think that this channel is all about calling bottoms, sorry, pal, you're in the wrong place. This is edutainment at best. So don't try and, first off, don't throw me in with the other sort of YouTube pumpers and dumpers, because remember, I don't have any vested interest one way or the other, whether shit goes up or down. And as I replied to you, I even show you guys my bids on things like cryptocurrencies, like on Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff, and talk about how I want price to come down so I can buy. So I'm pretty much an open book here, guys, but I do not get into the business of making predictions. Could I have predicted that this stock was going to quadruple overnight? And even somebody's here is like, how the hell did you know that was going to happen? I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I honestly don't. But it's not my job to predict that this is going to happen. My job is to put myself into a position so that I'm in these things that often do this. And ironically enough, technically speaking, yeah, I mean, fucking 400% move in one day, that's crazy. But I just put myself into a position that if it does happen, great. I get paid, ring the register, wonderful, kick ass, run my business of trading on to the next idea. But there's no way in hell I could predict that this was going to happen. I don't know whether I'm conveying that message clearly to you. Clearly people are still coming to my channel expecting me to make predictions in the market. I don't make predictions. All I gotta do is I just gotta tell you, holy shit, that looks like it's pointing down. Hey, that looks like it's pointing up. I'm gonna go buy some. That's what I do here on this channel. So, anyway, blah, 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 blah. I made a lot of money today. I'm a very happy camper. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not really in the business of predicting whether Bitcoin's going to go up or down or not. I don't care whether it does or not. But if it does give me a setup where I know that statistically the odds of me making money are pretty good, I'm there. I'm totally down. All right, so what I'm supposed to be talking to you guys, I'll just do this really quickly because there's not a heck of a lot of change here. US dollar index still trying to carve out its bottom here. I do think we went through a celestial pivot and we are right down against the bottom end of the range. So I do like the idea that this is trying to bottom. Also find it interesting too. Good old corn. We've seen this repeatedly where corn is uppy and US dollar index is uppy. I do believe there's a growing correlation between the US dollar index and Bitcoin. And I wouldn't even be surprised if we find out down the road that they're just going to add Bitcoin to the US dollar index. Remember, the US dollar index is nothing more than just a basket of fiat currencies. Why don't we throw some Bitcoin in there? And all of a sudden, woohoo! Everybody loves the US dollar now. I could see that happen easily. In fact, I listened to one guy and I put out his podcast. I was so impressed with him, a Canadian guy. And he's saying, we got tons of natural gas that just, is excess waste from all the energy projects we have in northern part of our country. Why not just use that excess waste gas that just goes into the atmosphere? Why not use that to power generators and well just mine Bitcoin with that energy that's just being wasted? Sound logical to me. Then hey, the Canadian government could put those Bitcoins into our treasury and we actually have something supporting our currency. That would be a cool idea. Which is interesting. I can't remember what the gentleman's name is, but he made a fascinating connection in my eyes. In that he made the argument that Bitcoin's not digital gold, it's digital energy, which I thought was fascinating. It's like stored digital energy because it takes work to get a Bitcoin. So if you base it on the work that is done to justify the value of it, and then if you buy a Bitcoin, then that's stored energy, it's stored work, right? I don't know how we equate the current market price to the value of that work though, because the problem is people that are buying Bitcoins right here, you're not buying value. You're buying the fluff. You're buying the emotional attachment, right? We know that value is the cost of production. So I like that thinking, that Bitcoin's actually stored energy versus stored sort of store of value, gold story. And I like that moving forward. That might actually enable Bitcoin to become a growth story through this coming growth cycle and keep going up in price. That was really cool. It was a podcast by what the hell's the guy's name? I can't remember what his name is, but I did tweet it out, and you should listen to it. It's really, really good. This guy, no, not that guy there. I think it was part of this right here, Bitcoin Standard Podcast. This gentleman here, I don't know who this guy is. I think this is the guy that he interviewed, Greg Foss. Man, that was a really cool listen. I really enjoyed that. So thank you, Bitcoin Standard Podcast people. That was really good. People on the site really enjoyed that. Super nice stuff. And the worst part about it is this guy that he interviewed, that Foss guy, he's a Canadian. And he's like, oh my God, our country is in such bad shape. I mean, if you ever listen to me, you know I keep going on and on about how insane this fucking Canadian market is. It's just absolutely ridiculously stupid. You know, as a historical reference, Lehman Brothers CDSs were trading at 9 points before the 2008 financial crisis. And where did Lehman Brothers go? Poof, gone. Canadian CDSs are trading at 37 points. So quite literally the market is saying that, the Canadian default risk is about what? Okay, it's embarrassing to do the math. What is that? Like 4 times the risk of Lehman Brothers. That's how risky they think this Canadian whole fucking joke of a country is right now. And we've got like a school teacher who's running the country and a cheerleader who her only university education is Eastern European history running our finance department. What? I mean, the writing's on the walls. I've talked about this at length. If you come in here and buy a whole bunch of Canadian assets and paper here, you're just asking for trouble. This has got disaster written all over it. So sad. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Where am I? So, like I said, I actually like the US dollar index. I don't really like the Canadian dollar. Of course, good old COVID's really gone and messed with that. Stock market still generally uppy, and the juniors haven't really come off here. And like I showed you a couple of stories, we just got paid big time in junior stock land today. So I don't really see any negativity here. Oil continues to move higher here. Is it justifiable? Oil $60-$70 a barrel, like economically speaking? No, If you diluted the purchasing power of the currency and the currency is only half of what it's worth maybe 5 years ago, i.e. oil is really about $35, $40 a barrel, that's probably about right. Which is sad, because literally what that means is that we just had half of our wealth stolen from us, people. It's just that simple. Now, whether it's the democratically elected politicians that continually lie to us, and so as a result they run budget deficits, which means that in essence these governments are bankrupt and they just keep lying to us, and it's more bankruptcy and it's more bankruptcy, and they have to steal our money because that's the only way you can keep the bankruptcy going. That could be the case. Or the flip side, and this is sort of the conspiracy side, is the 1%. They would really like to derail our democratically elected politicians, and so they set them up with this banking system where they control the amount of actual dollars in circulation, which means they control the actual size of the economy, not the governments. And so if you don't play ball with the bankers and do what they say, they just contract the economy, whether the politicians like it or not, and then the current politicians are run out of office. And the new people are put in that do cooperate with the banksters. I don't know which it is. Does it really make any difference at the end of the day? Probably not. Is it going to change in our lifetimes? Probably not. I think, as I had said earlier, all I really want to do is I want my life, when God looks at me at the end of this life and assesses what I've done on this planet, I want him or her or whatever it is to look back and just simply say, on balance, Brian, you tried to be a positive for this experience, not a negative. That might be just a pie in the sky aspiration and I'm an idiot. It's possible. But it's the only way I can justify being alive. Because if I have to give in to all this sort of baby eating and all that kind of, what ends up happening is you almost get blackmailed into a certain type of lifestyle that's just a never-ending vortex of criminal and, Epstein-type behaviors that can only end in tragedy. I don't know, sad. The funny thing is I was a fraternity brother of George Bush family. My fraternity was Alpha Phi. Beg your pardon. My fraternity was Phi Alpha DKE. George Bush and family, they were Alpha Phi. So actually, my fraternity actually had a really close connection with the, I think it was the Yale chapter, because we were almost like polar opposites. So it was kind of a funny connection we had with them. But we had our own skull and bones kind of association and all the fucking secrets and shit that go along with these silly fraternities. And you just wonder, you wonder how much of their souls did they actually really have to sell to make sure that things like, 9/11 secrets and stuff like that get pulled off efficiently. Guys like Kennedy get assassinated, all that kind of stuff. Sad world, but oh well. There's not really much we can do about that in the short term. What we can do, though, is just position yourself so that you don't have to play the banker's rules. Right? Neither a debtor nor a lender be. If you live that kind of life and you're really well diversified, then it doesn't really matter what these banksters do. They're only going to really fuck with the people like George Westinghouse. So if you want a really good illustration of a very wise but unfortunately financially poorly educated entrepreneur that really made a massive positive difference in our society, but got screwed over by the bankers because he didn't follow that, neither a debtor nor a lender be. Look into the story of George Westinghouse. Rant. Sure hope you enjoyed all that. Interesting to see the bonds are trying desperately to bottom here. Was wondering, with the community of late, whether the Fed has actually started to initiate sort of their central planning control coming in here. This looks a little suspicious price action wise. Huge gap lower and then choppy, and then this slow grind up here. Something just does not look right about this. Doesn't look, this doesn't look like free flow. You see how in here it's back and forth, back and forth. Then all of a sudden, look at this huge wick, and then a slam down, then up, then big gap down, then straight up, run stops, blah, 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 blah. Something doesn't look right about all this, and I got a funny feeling the Fed's coming in here. And they're, it's quantitative easing, central planning, whatever you want to call it. More inflation, keep the joke old economy, bad bonds, joke going. Joey Diamond gets to keep his business model going, all that kind of stuff. And that's the fingerprint of central planners. That does not look like fluid price action to me. I wonder, something that doesn't quite jibe with this whole story. Stocks are moving up, crude oil's moving up, gold is trying to move up, bonds are trying to move up, like everything's trying to move up. That's not usually how it goes, right? You guys have seen these images before. Usually it's either risk off or risk on, and they are carrying the day. So in a weird sort of way, it's almost like gold and Bitcoin kind of switch spots here. We have gold, oil, and stocks moving up, and Bitcoin and yen and bonds moving down. What? And here you can see, you can see that the bonds, they are trying desperately to bottom here. So very mixed messages from the market. Something that kind of scares me also too a little bit is in the 1920s, the Germans, and I think that the banking class, especially the Brits, they wanted to fuck the Germans after the end of the First World War, which is like an armistice, but in essence the war was still going on, so they wanted to kill them. And so they let the Weimar Republic sort of hyperinflate itself. And the interesting thing is that as they were hyperinflating themselves, people were actually commenting that what the Weimar Germans were doing was good. But ultimately it ended in complete disaster. And through that period, the Americans actually got religion. And in the early 1920s, they really tightened up the credit, they tightened up the bank standards, everything, which led to a really, really nasty recession, but it saved the purchasing power of the U.S. currency. So the question ultimately here is, are the powers that be letting the German Weimar scenario play out to destroy the United States of America, sort of that last bastion of, sort of holdouts that are sort of resisting Klaus and the banking class? We should watch this. Do the patriots in the United States of America stand up and say, enough is enough? We've got to defend this capitalist system or it's about to collapse. Fascinating. Only time will tell, and frankly speaking, I don't know if anybody knows what the hell the outcome is. I will say one thing. I just continually hear more and more and more that we're in the end game. So, and that makes sense, celestial events, generational pivots. They usually say recessions happen in years of 8s, 9s, 0s, 1s, and 2s. Where here we are in a 1, and we got a big 2 coming up. That 80-year reset, 1942 Battle of Stalingrad, even Pearl Harbor for that matter. I guess when was Pearl Harbor? Was it December 41? Maybe that was planned so that 1942 would be the catalyst for the Americans to come into the war. 1862 Battle of Gettysburg. And actually, I think that Robert E. Lee was given marching orders. He had to break the Union lines. He had no choice. So Pickett's charge was, in essence, that event. And literally, that was the end of the South. 1782, U.S. War of Independence. I mean, I find it fascinating that, over the past 300 years, we have these just very well telegraphed, well documented pivots. So here we are. I don't know what the world's going to look like on the other side of this. I did find it interesting that my personal horoscope said that I was going to enjoy 32 years of prosperity following about, I think it was 2004. I think I remember that's when I read it. And then I was supposed to have 30 years of financial disaster. So I'm about 20 years into that. I got about 10 years of good times left. And then unfortunately, I think like 2030s, 2040s, 2050s, I think they're going to be really nasty to the capitalists. But what the hell? That's not today. So enjoy the party today and see if you can make absolutely as much money as possible while we still are free and able to be capitalists, and see if you can bury enough in the sand somewhere so that if Big Brother comes knocking, at least you memorize secret key numbers, so then there's no way in hell they could take your bitcoins. I don't know. Anyway, kind of a funny rant. Sure hope you enjoyed that. Never a dull moment around TRI, that's for sure. Actually, I'm even going in there and bidding a little bit on some of the blockchain stocks. You can see they're starting to firm up here now. So I think we're getting ready for our summer silly season. And actually, you know what I really like is this sentiment within the space has turned extremely negative really quickly. And that's usually the sign of a pivot. So I was kind of hoping we get one more big dump down here. But I don't know. You can kind of see the dump exhausted itself, and now we got W starting to come back in. So yeah, maybe that's it for the downside for the time being. I know Willie Woo, he was kind of saying this 30, 40,000 area should be a base. Well, it's starting to look a hell of a lot more basey, isn't it? One more big FU to the downside would give me those awesome fills down below, but they're there just in case. They're not there because I expect that to happen tomorrow. I actually don't really expect that to happen until the fall, so... Okay, rant, blah, blah, blah. Sure hope you enjoyed that. I got class I have to head off to here in an hour or so. So have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. Let's all root for all these W's to start firing here so we can get back on the bull side. Stock market, I already am banging out doubles, so I can already start to feel the turn coming. Don't lose focus. Keep to your plan. Trade your setups. Slow and steady wins the race. PMA for the win. Yeah, don't take no wooden nickels. Remember what your number one job is. And be sure to stay tuned. What did we say? Friday. Friday on TRI, we've got a really cool presentation on SPACs. So if you are interested, try and pop in for that. And also we'll find out whether Sally is going to find out whether her husband was cheating with his secretary. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. All right, everybody. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. All the best. And bye for now.